Hello. This turned up in the mail. I ordered this. Trying to show it without showing my address. I ordered this. Not ordered it. I bought it off a secondhand CD trading page on Facebook that I've talked about numerous times before. And I'm going to open it with this bottle opener tool device. 3-in-1. Corkscrew, bottle opener, and what's this? I don't even know. A mini knife. It's not really a knife. It's a bit blunt to be a knife. But anyway, let's see how we go. So I haven't really bought any CDs for a good couple of months. How long has it been? Can't remember exactly the last one, but certainly the main things that I bought were late January, and we're now in mid-April. It's actually Easter week right now. It's Thursday, so tomorrow's Good Friday. So what do we call it? I think this Thursday is called Holy Thursday, or at least is when I was growing up. You can see there, the first one there, Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds. This is a 2-album set, Abattoir Blues. Sorry, without wrecking it. This guy's is kind of like double wrapped them, whoever sent this. This was sent from Palmerston North. Palmerston North is a city. Well, it's a city in New Zealand. It might be classed as a town in other countries, but about 6-7 hours drive from Auckland on the lower half of the North Island. Nick Cave and the Bad Seed, Abattoir Blues, and The Lyre of Orpheus. And this kind of comes in this how would you call this? Kind of, I don't know what that material is called. It's kind of like canvas, calico, and inside we have this one, which is Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, Abattoir Blues. If you're not familiar with that album. And The Lyre of Orpheus, which I think is a little bit more well known. I don't know the years these came out. Let's see if the booklet can shed some light. I'm not seeing any years. Anyway, I'm not super familiar with Nick Cave's work. I know bits and pieces of his most well known stuff, and bits and pieces of his lesser well known stuff as well. But I'm not really deeply into his whole back catalogue where I know everything, or even close to it. However, I was listening to an interview with him recently. He did a Desert Island Discs episode on BBC Radio, which was kind of interesting. I know I find the Desert Island Disc series to be very how can you put it? It's interesting, but it's also very brief. Like the little, like they try and cover the whole person's life, the subject matter, and they kind of say, okay, well, you were born in 19 blah blah in Melbourne, Australia, and then you did this, and then the artist will give a kind of a short answer or a short kind of ad to the thing that the presenter said, and then they kind of move on, and then you did this, and it's like doesn't really give much time at all to go in depth, which I suppose it's not really for that. And then they'll say, oh, your next disc is such and such, and they'll give kind of like a 1 or 2 sentence reason as to why they chose it. I also read his blog, or I don't know, blogs maybe not the right word. He's got this a website called the Red Hand Files, I think, Red Right Hand Files, where people write in questions and he answers them. And for a long time, in my mind, and also with a lot of the interviews I've read from him over the last 20 years, Nick Cave always seemed a bit of a curmudgeon, and a bit too cool for school, kind of. But I feel that maybe with age, but also I think with the tragedy that he went through with his son, well, actually he lost two sons, but primarily his younger son, which would be about 10 years ago now, that seemed to have really mellowed him. And I might be wrong, and maybe he was always had that part of him, but I remember reading interviews where he just kind of seemed, and maybe also he was also a heroin addict for a good 20 years, and maybe that was part of it. Maybe some of the interviews he was still in the throes of addiction. I don't know. But he seems like a very interesting person, Nick Cave. I read a biography. It was actually a graphic novel biography of his early years with the birthday party. And sometimes when I see things of people like Nick Cave, where he was only in his early 20s, and he was seeing so much, when I kind of compare myself to when I was in my early 20s, he seemed so much more advanced, not psychologically, mentally, intelligence wise. Anyway, that's I got this for $5, I should say. And the guy who sold it, I think he had some seller's regret, because I haven't, in those Facebook CD trading pages, you have to be quite quick, because people put things up, and if it's even a little bit good, it will get snapped up quite quickly. And I've missed out on a lot of stuff. And I say over the last few months, I just haven't really been in the mood. And I've seen quite a few things over the last few months. I thought, oh, I'd like that. But a lot of times, as in the case with this, the seller will put a minimum. They'll put up like 20 albums and say, okay, I can post these to you at your expense, but it's a 3 CD minimum. That means you got to buy at least 3. I'm not going to send out one, 20 different people. And I can understand that, because that would be a lot of labor wrapping up stuff and going to the post office. And so a lot of times I'll only see one album that I really want. I'm like, I can't be bothered trying to just find 2 others that I kind of half want. But in this case, there was 3 things. Well, at least 2 of them I wanted. This one and another one, which I'll show in a second. But the other one I was kind of more half and half on. But when the guy, he took a while to get back to me, and he said, oh, someone else has already offered me $15 for it. Not already. Someone else, after I had put in my initial claim, but he was a man of his word. He could have easily said, oh no, sorry, I can't send that, and then taken the higher offer. But he was a man of honor, and he stood by my original $5 claim. So I got this. I think 2 albums for $5 by Nick Cave is pretty good, because he's not the kind of artist you see come up a lot. And this looks kind of like almost like a special edition type thing. I've never seen this kind of thing around before. Well, not this kind of thing, but at least with Nick Cave and the Bad Seeds, I haven't seen it. Pictures of some flowers. What flowers are those? Don't know. Next up, another kind of special edition type thingy of an album I've actually owned before, Soulfly. Which has got the original debut album, self-titled, and a bonus CD. I've owned this album before. That artwork's in the original album on the CD backing tray thing? So Soulfly, if you don't know, is Max Cavalera's his initial post-Sepultura project. He's got a few different projects going at the moment. But when Sepultura when he left Sepultura in 1996, he went on to form his own project called Soulfly without the other members. So Sepultura are a Brazilian death thrash kind of metal band that kind of step by step got quite geez, I'm all over the place this morning. They slowly built a following and critical acclaim with their albums through the late 80s into the early 90s. Albums like Arise. And then they released Chaos AD in about 93, and that kind of broke them. I think that was on Roadrunner. I think it was the first album on Roadrunner. I might be wrong that it might, but it was certainly the first album that kind of got them a kind of a much larger audience with songs like Territory and Refuse Resist. And the band were Max Cavalera, who was the singer and guitarist and I was going to say songwriter. I think he was the main song. Maybe not the only songwriter. Andreas Kisser was the lead guitarist. Paolo Jr. is the bassist. And Max's brother, Igor Cavalera, is the drummer. And their manager was Gloria Cavalera, who was Max's wife. And they recorded Roots in 95, released 96. And that was really a breakout album. That was a pretty... I say huge, but I think it sold 1 million copies at least, and had guest spots by Mike Patton and Jonathan Davis and probably some other people I can't remember at the moment. No, certainly those two though on Look Away, and they kind of seemed primed for the big time, especially because they had a kind of a new metal, whereas they'd been more death metal and thrash metal. In their earlier works, by Roots, it was kind of getting a new metal feel. I guess influenced by what was happening at the time, but also themselves an influence. I think their album Chaos AD and Roots are both big influences on new metal that came. And so they were kind of well positioned for that, not explosion, but what do you want to call it? The rise of new metal in the late 90s. With bands like Korn and Deftones and Linkin Park and Limp Bizkit, etc. But they had internal problems, and there's various things I've heard, but basically the rest of the band didn't like the management of Gloria. They felt that she was whatever. And Max decided to leave the band, siding with his wife over the members. Like, well, if you don't want my wife as the manager, then I'm not going to be in the band. And they said, see you later. And they kept the name. I don't know if he let them. He didn't fight for the name. You know what I mean? I guess he could have, because he was a founding member with his brother and some other. Those other two guys weren't founding members. But I think he was just like, oh, whatever. And they carried on with a new singer, Derek Green, who's still in the band now, but they're actually on their farewell tour right now in 2025. So almost, close to 30 years after that initial split. That second iteration of the band's still going, but is almost wrapping up. And they went, the Max Cavalera-less Sepultura, I think, went back to the more extreme metal and veered away from the new metal sound that the Roots had. If you listen to the albums that they did through the 2000s, they were a lot more... they still had that Sepultura sound, but they... I think they went in a more progressive, extreme death thrash direction. Whereas Soulfly, which was Max's project, carried on that. It was almost kind of like, this album is almost like a Roots 2.0 in some ways. And it kind of really dug into that new metal sound. Subsequently, Soulfly also went off in another direction. They kind of did a couple of albums in that new metal sound, but then they went more back to kind of Max's original sound from the late 80s, more of a thrash death sound. Albums like Omen and what's the other one he did? Death. I can't remember the names of the ones. They've done so many albums. Death. I don't have the list. I don't have the discography in front of my face. And he's also, his brother Igor eventually left Sepultura in about 2010, or maybe a bit later than that. And he reunited with Max, and they have a side project called Cavalera. And they also re-recorded some of the very early Sepultura albums from the late, like Morbid Visions, and I can't remember the other one. And I think they have another project as well. But anyway, Max is still with Soulfly. They still are writing and releasing and touring. But this is their first album. And I remember when this came out, this was very kind of highly anticipated because Roots was a huge album. People were very interested to see what Max would do. And in some ways, you know, he's on Roadrunner, so it wasn't as though he was completely adrift. But still, I've talked about this before, leaving a band that has a name and a reputation and going alone with a completely new band and a new name, it's not calling it Max Cavalera, it's called Soulfly, is not an easy thing to do. So it's quite courageous, you could say, and quite a big gamble. I've heard interviews with him before, how when he left Sepultura, his wife was like, "Why don't you fight for the name? You have the right to that name, Sepultura. You should take the name." And he was like, "Whatever. I'll build something new." And sometimes I see things with Max Cavalera and he says some kind of dumb shit, but at the same time, I kind of respect that he's just like, I just want to completely cut that and just start completely fresh and new. And I think he's built himself a pretty decent career since 96, 97 with Soulfly and all the other bits and pieces that he's done. He's done a lot of other things as well, like he's done guests. He did that project with Troy Sanders from Mastodon and Greg Puciato, is that his name, from Dillinger, Killer Be Killed. But they only did one album, which and you don't really hear anything about it. Nail Bomb. When was Nail Bomb? Nail Bomb was during Sepultura period, so I think that was before he left. Anyway, and one reason why he was able to have success after Sepultura was because I think heavy metal fans are very loyal, and they, how can you put it? If you buy heavy metal music, and this was released in 1999, 98, 99, when was it? I think the original was 98, maybe the special edition's 99. Back then, obviously people were still buying physical CDs, right? And so if you're buying heavy metal, you have a certain, what can you call it? Attachment to the music beyond just a passing thing. You know, it's easy to be a fan of music, you know, the broad term, by turning on the radio or, turning on music TV. We still have music channels here in New Zealand, or just whatever songs they're playing in the gym or whatever songs they're playing when you go clothes shopping. You know, you can kind of just easily pick up music and kind of move from one thing to the next thing to the next thing. And there's nothing wrong with that. Personally, I can't understand it at all, but there are many people, I'd say maybe the majority of people are like that. And nowadays with Spotify, you just get a Spotify account and it gives you playlists every day of music that you like. You kind of give them some ideas of the artists you like and they kind of feed you music. Whereas if you're a metal fan, especially back then, there was you had to go out of your way to listen to it. It's not the kind of thing you can turn on the radio and listen to or turn on the TV and listen to. You had to seek the music out. And sometimes even in shops, they wouldn't sell it. You had to order it from overseas. The metal sections were always pretty small. And even in the heyday of CDs, it was always one of the smaller sections. And so your average heavy metal fan is a lot more dedicated and loyal, and if they like Sepultura and they know that Max has left, they are more willing to take a gamble and buy their new music or listen to their new project. Whereas if a band like, I don't know, Imagine Dragons or whatever, this is modern, but let's just say Imagine Dragons, if they existed back then, if I don't know the name of a single Imagine Dragon, but if one of them left, I don't imagine Actually, I don't know. I'm sure you understand what I'm saying. Even if you don't worry. So yes, it's a special edition, which is a kind of gatefold digipack type CD, which is in pretty good condition actually, considering this would have been bought probably back in the late 90s, early 2000s. So you've got the original CD, which I actually already own, and then this bonus CD. I only own the disc of this that I bought back in the late 90s, early 2000s. I don't have this, so it's good to have the full artwork and whatnot. And this bonus disc. And the bonus disc seems to have some mixes, dub mixes and live versions. So we've got the FS Up mix of Tribe, the Extreme Raga dub mix, the World Cup mix of Umbararumba. You know that song? Maybe you know. Umbararumba, Homego. No Hope, No Fear live version, Bleed live version, Boomba live version, Quilombo live, and the song remains insane live. And then we got some other bits of mixes. Max Cavalera has always been kind of what would you call it, drawn or kind of had an association with reggae, I guess maybe because he's got the dreads, but maybe, you know, I don't know about Brazil, what's going on in Brazil, but like he always seemed to kind of if you listen to his lyrics and look at a lot of the artwork and the words he uses, he kind of has a connection or a inclination towards reggae and dub, which you don't really hear in the music every now and then, but most of his music is just kind of straightforward metal. So yeah, I'm not surprised by some of those mixes being dub mixes or reggae or raga mixes. This album always featured heavy references to his stepson Dana, who died in the years prior to this being released. I think it was about 97. No, that was 96. That was part of the reason why Sepultura broke up, was that while they were touring in Europe, I think they were going to play the Donington Festival in England, he died while they were away. So Gloria, his mother, and Max, his stepfather, were in Europe, and their stepson died in a car crash. And so they wanted to put the tour on hold to come back and deal with that. And the rest of the band, I don't know exactly what, but there's all kind of, I've heard different accusations, but basically that was kind of why maybe the straw that broke the camel's back. And so you can see there's a dedication there. There's also on the back of that's the son there. I dedicate this work of passion in memory of my loving Papino Graziano, I think it's his dad, Karina Cavalera, maybe that's his mum, Dana or Dana Wells, that's that guy there, his stepson, Tio Mario, Tia Vera, don't know who they are. Maybe it's Tio and Tia are grandparents. Chico Ciance, I think he is a Brazilian musician. Bleed and First Commandment are dedicated to the people involved in the murder of Dana Wells and the cover-up of his death. You know who you are, judgment is coming. Now, I've also read about that. And there's a lot of kind of back and forth and differing accounts of what happened. Basically, it sounded like he was in a car with a bunch of other people, and he was intoxicated. And I don't want to cast aspersions here, even though I don't know the guy and it's been almost 30 years, but he was intoxicated. Someone pulled a gun in another car, or his car pulled a gun on another car, and there was kind of like a chase or a pursuit between two cars. I don't know which one was his car was chasing or in front, but it hit a curb and flipped and he died. And then there was all these kind of conspiracy theories, and that's why they kind of talk about here, the murder and the cover-up. I don't know how true that is. I've read accounts from people who lived in Phoenix and who knew exactly what happened. And they're like, no, that's bullshit. The guy was, mouthing off and he pulled a gun on someone, and then so who knows where the truth lies in that. This album features guest appearances. I'm trying to think of the word by Fred Durst and DJ Lethal from Limp Bizkit. This is I think this would have been around $3 bill, your Limp Bizkit time. Also, Chino Moreno from the Deftones, he's on First Commandment. Burton C. Bell from Fear Factory, he's in it somewhere. What song's he on? I can't remember what song he's on. There's Chino. Dino from Fear Factory. There's Fred Durst. Here we go, so it's here. Fred Durst, Chino Moreno, Benji, don't know who Benji is. Where did it say the other people who are? Maybe over here. No. Anyway, it was quite a big deal when this album came out at the time, if you liked that kind of music. And even, to be honest, my music taste has kind of moved on a bit, and it is a bit new metalish, but there's still some really good songs on the actual album. Eye for an Eye, it's just kind of like as soon as you hear it, it sounds like a Max Cavalera type song. Bleed, that's a song with Fred Durst. I quite like that song. First Commandment, that's quite a good song. Boomba, that's quite a good song. I said that one about football, Umbara Umba, which is about some famous footballer. That's quite a good song. There's a hidden song after the end of it, which I quite like. It's like this, like a tribal sing-along. And then the instrumental Soulfly, that's quite a good song as well. So yeah, happy to have that as well. A special edition there, two kind of special edition-y type things, $5 each. The last one I kind of, like I just said, I alluded to earlier, I kind of got this because I had to make up 3. The guy said I had to buy a minimum of 3. And so I was looking through what he's got, and I was like, there's nothing there that I really want, but I ended up getting this one. One I've seen around so many times since I was a kid. Joe Satriani, Surfing with the Alien. Now, I know Joe Satriani is a guitarist, a kind of virtuoso guitarist. I know that Kirk Hammett had some lessons with him when he was younger. And I think Steve Vai also had some lessons with him when he was younger. So to be a teacher of Kirk Hammett, not that I'm the biggest Kirk Hammett fan, to be honest, but and Steve Vai, you must be a pretty amazing guitarist. Like I said, I've seen this album around since I was a kid. Remember seeing it in CD shops in the 90s. I remember when they used to put those 3 CDs for $10 type deals on the back of magazines, and you'd send away, and then you'd be locked into that deal and have to buy a CD every month at full price. I remember this was always on that, because I remember the album cover, because I don't know if that is, but it looks a lot like Silver Surfer from the Marvel comics that I used to read when I was a kid. I don't know if that is who it's supposed to be. It looks close enough that you think there would be some sort of copyright claim by Marvel. Maybe that was addressed, because that looks comic book-esque as well, doesn't it? Now, this came out in 87, and I'm not sure if I've ever heard any music from this before, so I'm kind of buying this completely blind. But that's okay, because, as much as I'm not really that into virtuoso guitar type stuff, I'm sure I've seen this album around enough that it must have had a decent popularity in the general public as well. Because, like I said, you see this around a lot, and you did see it around a lot. So it must have been fairly popular and big, and that would kind of lead me to believe that it's not just wanking up and down the fretboard like some of those albums tend to be. And I should also say that I remember you might have watched a video about 2 or 3 months ago where I found those 2 Steve Vai albums for secondhand. I found them for $1 each. And I kind of just bought them. One of them was because Devin Townsend was on it, but I was kind of like, I'm a bit iffy about this because, I'm not really interested in technicality for technicality's sake with guitar albums. But I was actually pleasantly surprised. I think they were both really good albums. So maybe I'll be similarly pleasantly surprised with this Satriani album. I'm trying to see if it mentions anything about the cover art. No. Very sparse liner notes. How can it not? Oh, there we go. Cover concept by Jim Kozlowski. Was he a famous artist? Maybe he was a Marvel artist. Anyway, don't have much to say about that because I don't have any experience listening to it, but I will listen to it today. Maybe it will be absolutely amazing, and I'll think, I've seen this album around for 30 plus years and I've never listened to it. Sometimes that happens. You'll listen to an album and you'll be absolutely blown away by it, and you'll look at the year and it came out in 1996, and you think, this has been around for 29 years and I didn't even know it. And then what I often do is, when I see these albums, the years they come out, I imagine what I was doing at that time. In 1996, I was in this year at school and I was listening to this kind of music. Man, imagine if I knew about this music at that time. Anyway, so 3 purchases there, 3 for $5 each, so that's $15 for those 3. Not bad, especially happy with those 2 there. Something different, as in kind of special edition type thingies. First purchases in a long time. Will that change? No, I don't have any intentions of going up. I've kind of been looking a little bit, very lightly, a few places, but I haven't really found anything in the secondhand shops. Might be looking on Saturday in a couple of shops, but that depends on whether they're open because it is Easter. So I don't know about in your country, but tomorrow, Good Friday in New Zealand, everything is closed. By law, shops have to close. There are a few shops, though, like petrol stations can stay open, and like convenience stores can stay open, and some restaurants can open, I think. There's laws around selling alcohol as well. Then Saturday is everything opens again. And then Sunday again, Easter Sunday, everything's closed again by law. So in New Zealand, there's 3 days: Christmas Day, Good Friday, Easter Sunday. By law, everything must close. And there's a half day on Anzac Day, which is April 25th, from until 1 p.m. Shops cannot open until 1 p.m. because of various reasons. So I'm not sure if those secondhand shops will be open on Saturday, because a lot of shops will just take the whole weekend off. They'll take the Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday's a public holiday, so it's like a 4-day weekend. And so some places don't open on the Saturday. We'll see. Anyway, thank you for watching.